What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my 25 Days of Christmas Marathon. Today, we're going to be talking about the film that created the ever-long argument of what makes a Christmas movie, and that's Die Hard. By the way, for the record, this is a Christmas movie. The fact that the film was set on Christmas Eve, along with the Christmas decorations, the Christmas music, the fact that people were saying Merry Christmas should be enough for the conversation, but I digress. I don't care what Bruce Willis says. But with that aside, if you were to watch this film for the first time in today's day, you'd probably say to yourself, what's all the hype about? Sure, it's a fun movie, but I've seen this style of film before. Yes, Paul Blart, I'm looking at you. But, truth be told, this is what started the era of action films during that golden age of action filmmaking. Although simple and to the point, this is one of a kind when it comes to the style of plot and how it moves, while being one of one when it comes to the feelings and what it was able to capture. Now, truth be told, I don't think Die Hard was meant to be taken extremely seriously, due to it almost feeling like satire by how the action sequence was played out, how tongue-in-cheek some of the dialogue was, and how the film was directed and edited. But for my money, that just plays into the charm and the enjoyment of the film. Now, that's not to say that there's no tension or it shouldn't be taken seriously at some points, because there's certainly a fair bit of risky and high-octane moments that almost demand you to take it serious, but John McTiernan did a great job balancing the differing tones, and a lot of that was due to the performances. The first act almost feels like its own movie in a way, by how calm and slow it moves, but come the later half of the first act and on, this turns into a very enjoyable, high-octane action flick, coupled with so much heart and attention to detail. Although the first 25 minutes or so can be a bit slow and almost inferior to the rest of the film, it does a great job explaining the exposition in such a creative way, not just being done to get it out of the way, but done in a way that made everything come full circle in the last act. Everything had a purpose of being what it was and where it was placed in the film. When it comes to the performances, this film wouldn't be what it is without our two leads, but also our side characters as well. Like the plot, no character felt wasted. I'm a huge Sylvester Stallone guy, as you can tell from my whole room, and I've also liked Arnold Schwarzenegger in these action roles like a Commando and stuff like that, but there's zero chance they would have been able to capture the type of charisma Bruce Willis did in this. For my money, no disrespect to Mr. Willis, you're my guy, but I personally feel like a lot of the roles he was granted after this was due to this generational performance. There's nothing wrong with that, but it just shows how great he was in this. He was such an awesome lead protagonist, being so easy to get behind and root for because of the vulnerabilities he showed all throughout the film, and also the charm he brought to the character. At his core, he was a very sharp and quick-witted, knowing exactly what to do or what to say to break the antagonist's balls, but his style of comedy just works so well on top of it. He just had so many great one-liners or bits of banter to the antagonist, and above all that, he'd even talk a bit of shit to himself. When it made, I can relate to that a lot, so I found that absolutely hysterical. Although his character, and basically everyone else as well, didn't really have much of a backstory, the director did such a great job making us feel for his character through the little subtle bits of information we get, like about his job, his family, and again, the vulnerabilities he shows. As for our main antagonist and Alan Rickman, Willis is the obvious selling point, but if Willis is the gun, Rickman is the holster. If Willis is the peanut butter, Rickman's the jelly, because their dynamic works so damn well. Rickman was such a fantastic antagonist, where he wasn't this mustache-twirling villain, but a guy that had many layers to him as well, and a lot of that was due to his delivery. At one moment, he would come off as very genuine, like, damn, maybe he's onto something here. In other moments, you're like, okay, yeah, you're a bit of a nut, you. But no matter what persona he was putting on, he was always dead calm through it all. He comes off as the most diabolical car salesman you've ever met, and that's probably the best way I could put it to you guys. He never lost his cool, always being very focused, and then in the next moment, he was painting the wall with someone's melon. Diabolical stuff. As for the side characters, as mentioned, they all did a really great job as well. When it comes to his wife, played by Bonnie Bedelia, she wasn't this silly love interest just there to fuel her protagonist, but she was the type of character to have her own little swag and purpose to her. It's not like she had loads to do, but like the Rickman and Willis dynamic, Bedelia and Willis dynamic also worked really well, where it almost was like she was the yin to his yang in a way. As for Al Powell, sorry, I struggle saying that, played by Reginald VelJohnson, again, struggle saying that as well, he too had some pretty deep layers to his character, arguably being my favorite side character. I know I mentioned it earlier, but Paul Blart isn't comparable to this film, but like in that film, you had what you would call the useless cop, not be so useless, but the connection and almost bromance he had with Willis's character was arguably the best bit out of the entire film. There was a lot of great layers to their relationship, where they brought great balance to one another, where if one of them needed something, the other was right there to pick him up, along with having a really cool arc as well. And the last side character I absolutely adored was the limo driver played by Devereux White. He didn't get a whole lot of screen time, almost getting sidecasted most of the film, but the screen time he did have, he made the absolute most of it. He was super enjoyable in the beginning of the film, sort of being that necessary spark plug to the entire film. They come to the last act, he had a very good scene and purpose of being there all along. The next positive I wanted to talk about quickly, which I've already hinted at, the screenplay. With action films, unless they're like a buddy cop film, you don't really expect a lot of laughs, but Die Hard really hammered away at it and did it absolutely right. There are so many memorable lines and laughs all throughout this film, mainly coming from Bruce Willis. It's to the point where if you lined up 10 people that have seen the film, they'd probably give you 10 different quotes from it, and that's how catchy and memorable some of the lines are. But when they weren't having a laugh, the hard-hitting stuff worked extremely well because everything had a reason and came full circle, even the small, minute details. Everything had a rhyme and a reason, which is super impressive on its own, let alone the fact that this is an action film, which usually are pretty bare bones when it comes to a script. Aside some of the small things that I appreciated, like the camera work, the last bit I wanted to talk about was the action itself. Now, I won't lie. There's definitely some bits where there's clear plot armor, or the camera probably could have been placed in a better spot, along with the editing team tackling the shot better, but overall, the action was handled really well, especially in that third act. You could just tell they had loads of fun choreographing these scenes, where there's just tons of high-octane action, fist fighting, and explosions, of course. But for my money, what really caught my attention was the hand-to-hand combat. Usually in films that aren't strictly based on fighting, like say a Bloodsport or something like that, the hand-to-hand combat can be pretty hammy, along with the sound mixing that's tacked onto it. But honestly, there's a couple of scenes where I thought they were generally beating the shit out of each other, so well done with that. And to add on to that, the last piece of action that really made it hit home was the risks they added in. Again, there's clearly plot armor involved, but they definitely took some risks with these action sequences, making us believe that McClane wasn't really going to make it out, along with the amount of tension they added being built in before and during the scenes. I'd love to sit here and continue to glaze this film, but there's just a couple things, maybe like 2 things to hold it back for me, outside what I've already mentioned. My first semi-issue is with the explaining. As mentioned, everything certainly had a purpose, and I'm not that guy that needs everything spoon-fed to him, but I believe the film could have benefited explaining everything just a little bit more. Willis's background, Rickman's motive, Willis and Bedelia's relationship, and so on and so forth. On top of that, there's certainly a couple of how the fuck did that happen, or how does that even make sense sort of scenes interwoven in, but other than that, the film is a work of art. Overall, outside of some nitpicks with the editing, the plot armor, and the explanation, the film is nearly perfect. I mean, I don't glaze and say it's the best film ever made like some people, but I think it's very, very good for what it is. Die Hard gets a very solid 9 out of 10 from me. Let me know what you think of Die Hard in the comments below, and let me know what film you'd like to see me review next. See you guys in the next one.